Part 18. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 171. Although he has obtained the tutelage, in fact there are still a lot of messy things waiting for him. At this time, Sugu was holding a small hammer and pressing his fingers on the line card. He felt his body shaking, so he quickly said, "Xiaozai, hold the ladder steady, don't be half-hearted." Oh, but the fireflies and the others went to the beach to play. Sugu knocked the iron wire clamp on the wall with a small hammer, and then pulled the wire in place. "Let them go as they go, why do you care so much? You teach me, left 0 and right fire, red is the live wire, and the flower is the ground wire. I don't want to learn these things." Xiaozai held the herringbone ladder with his hands and was about to cry but had no tears. Why can they all go and play, but only she is asked to do things here? It's not fair. Sugu climbed down from the herringbone ladder. He looked at the small house looking eagerly at the window and said, "You can go and play too. I can finish the rest by myself." Xiaozai opened his eyes wide and said, "If no one is holding the ladder, will it be easy to fall? Then help me." "No. Heartless Xiaozai, I am so kind to you in vain." It has to be said that although the general aspect of the town hall is basically intact, there are still some details that have not been completed. These details are not noticed at all before you move in. Some things were originally thought to be very good, but when you actually came in, you found that they were just the same thing. It doesn't matter if the wall is not high enough. It is meant to guard against gentlemen and not villains. But what are you little girls doing climbing on top of the wall? It's easy to fall down. Next time, I'll put broken glass on the wall so you can climb up and play on it. The pier is very small, and some small boats are okay, but large ships cannot dock at all, and there is no beach next to the pier, so there is no seaside feeling at all. The nearly 100 steps from the pier to the governor's house have cracks, and weeds are stubbornly growing between the cement gaps. I didn't pay much attention to this in the first place. There are some beautiful white magnolias next to the small bungalow in the warehouse, which I originally thought was very nice. When I actually moved in, I discovered that after a night of heavy wind and rain, the ground was covered with fallen leaves. Cleaning up fallen leaves is a bit troublesome. I really don't know why leaves fall so easily. Xiaozai ran away. At this time, Sugu sat on the herringbone ladder and continued wiring. The herringbone ladder was actually very stable. Originally, it was just to find Xiaozai to accompany him. During the few days he stayed in the town's mansion, he was busy with all kinds of things and did not do any of his official work as an admiral. Sugu laid out the wires and then walked down the corridor with the toolbox. At this time, Lexington came towards her with a large roll of something. She was now the secretaryship. She looked at Sugu and raised his head and said, "I asked Leipzig to buy some wallpaper." Leipzig and San Juan were now responsible for procurement and supplies. "Okay, let's go and decorate Fletcher's room." There are many rooms in the Tutelary mansion, but it was originally renovated from the old Tutelary mansion, although the initial requirement was that all rooms must be renovated. Just because it had to be completed before New Year's Eve, some rooms were renovated due to lack of time. It happened that the dormitory chosen by Fletcher and the others was an old one. Although they were asked to choose again, they seemed to like it. So at this time we can only help Fletcher and the others renovate. Advisor Sue asked, "Where is Fletcher?" Fletcher took some of his sisters, and they went to play on the lighthouse. I heard there was a huge telescope there, which they said could see the stars. The last admiral didn't remove it when he left, and then it was left behind. Come down. Telescopes. They can't see anything during the day. Where's Gaga? Gaga and the others went outside and said they found a garage there with a very old car there. Really? Let's see if it can be started then. Then I will take you to play and go for a ride. Okay, but can you drive it? Of course, probably Sugu did have a driver's license, but he was not familiar with starting and driving cars here. Let's open a vegetable patch in the south so that we can have fresh vegetables when the time comes. Are you doing a part-time job in the cafeteria? Then you have too many things to do. Let Prince Eugen take care of it. It feels good to be able to cook with you, Admiral. Leipzig and San Juan are responsible for purchasing. You have to buy at least a week's worth of food from the refrigerator. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome. It's still such a long distance to the nearby county and you have to take a boat. San Juan is what we are good at here. She drove them when she was guarding passenger ships. Sugu and Lexington talked as they walked, and soon walked into Fletcher's room. Soon Sugu grabbed one corner of the wallpaper, Lexington grabbed the other corner, and then spread it on the wall. Fletcher's room was a quadruple room, a bit like Sugu's own dormitory in college. Here is a large room, a balcony, and a bathroom. Under the bed frame in the room is a desk and cabinet, and above is the bed. It is a beautiful wooden frame instead of an iron frame. It is no wonder that Fletcher and the others chose this place. I wish I had started asking for some thick blue curtains to block out all the light. It's a bit harsh now. In the building opposite the magnolia tree, the two rooms on the second floor next to each other should be used as classrooms. It will be New Year's Eve in a while, so we need to prepare New Year's goods. The governor's mansion I mentioned before has an admiral named Eugene who gave me a letter of introduction. I will pay him a visit there then. But let's wait until the next year. This period of time has passed too far. I saw Beizai and Jia hanging together today. When did they get together? They are going to cause chaos. Let Fletcher take charge of the destroyers now. It happens that they are basically her sisters, except Firefly, but Firefly is very obedient and sensible. But I promised Firefly that I will go to the Prince of Wales after the year. At this time, while helping Fletcher and the others renovate and decorate the room, Sugu talked to Lexington about various things. A game is indeed a game. No matter what it is, you can just poke your finger and you don't need to think about many things at all. Xiaozai made things so easy at first, but now it is really not easy to manage in practice, and it is not like an admiral who would leave everything to the secretaryship and lie down and eat every day waiting to die. After all, my own ideas cannot provide combat effectiveness, but I must at least manage the garrison well. Soon after, the decoration of Fletcher's dormitory was basically completed. Sugu sighed, thinking about who would be a softie and who was in a hurry. It was really exhausting. I haven't done anything serious since I came to the town hall for many days. Zeppelin, as the instructor, still hasn't come. Lexington said, by the way, I remember you mentioned it, and asked me to remember to remind you that when you come here, remember to pay a visit to the admiral of the nearby garrison. After all, they say that distant relatives are not as good as close neighbors. Lexington thought as he spoke. When visiting other garrison forts, it would naturally be dispatched by two people, the admiral and the secretaryship. No, generally speaking, the admiral must go, but not necessarily the secretaryship. Most of the time, he has to sit in the garrison. Well, no matter how many there are, it is a rare opportunity for two people to go out, not even to the small house. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 172. Giving a clock to someone? You will get beaten. Lexington, you don't understand our etiquette. You should never give a clock as a gift. Why? It is unlucky to send the bell to the end. Then what should I give you? When it comes to giving gifts, if you can't think of something that others like, it's just tobacco and alcohol. Cigarettes and alcohol are too cheap, so you can also choose some obviously expensive gifts. No matter what, it won't be weird if you give them to many people. It's just that people are not familiar with them now. Giving a big gift rashly means there is no need to spend the money, and secondly it will make others think you have some agenda. At this time, the two of them walked along the streets of the county town. There were not many people on the streets in winter. Passing by the store, Lexington suddenly said, "Admiral, do you think that dress hanging there looks good?" "It's okay. Well, I think it would be good to buy some cigarettes, alcohol, and fruits. What do you think?" "When I was in Chuangziu, I never went shopping with you. I remember you went there with Jia, and later bought a notebook, but I discovered it. You have to be busy at the academy, and I have to teach Xiao Zai and the others." These little kids were like housewives every day at that time. Although Lexington didn't show any expression of sadness or indignation, and his voice was very calm, these words made people have to surrender. Thinking about it, it seems that in such a long time, I have never gone shopping alone with Lexington, but I have gone shopping with Saratoga the most. After all, she is my lovely sister-in-law. So Sugu cleared his throat and said, "Then let's try it on. It will look beautiful on you." Lexington had a good figure like a clothes rack. That was probably how it turned out that picking out gifts for a visit turned into shopping with Lexington. In fact, there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, it would be better if he didn't see Lexington's little devilish smile. How about a windbreaker? Wearing a large trench coat, the hem hung down to his thighs. Lexington's whole demeanor changed in wearing the trench coat. "Where's this jacket?" But Bismarck should look more handsome in it. With his hands in his pockets and wearing a jacket, Lexington's appearance is even weirder. "What do you think of this skirt? Does it look good?" She was not wearing a bloated sweater, but she was still bright in a simple cotton dress. "It's just that my chest is tight, Admiral. Where are you looking?" When a woman asks you for advice, what do you mean when you look outside the store and talk to her? "Look at me," or, "There are beauties outside." Lexington looked over with suspicious eyes, and Sugu said, "You are a beauty. You are always beautiful, and you look beautiful no matter what clothes you wear. It's such an insincere compliment. Then why don't you wear this hat again? It's beautiful too." The long cotton skirt suited Lexington well, but in the end he didn't buy it. He put down the skirt and walked out of the store. Lexington said, "I don't really like that one, and it's very expensive. I don't want to buy it. But it looks like you like it very much. As long as you stay with me, everything will be fine." At this time, Lexington was in a high-spirited mood that she had never seen before. For her, shopping and shopping were not very important things. Who she was with was more important. Sugu said, "After all, it is a small place like the county town. How can there be so many clothes for you to choose from? If you want to buy something, we can go back to Sichuangzia when we find time." "You said it," I wrote it down. As he said this, Lexington hugged Sugu's arm. While walking on the road, Lexington said, "Do you think it looks better with your hair pulled up or let down? I heard from York City that you like short hair, so should I get a short haircut?" York City is talking nonsense. She looks good with both long and short hair. I like them both. York City has short hair. Do you think I have any thoughts about her?" Lexington said, "Yes." Character was questioned. Lexington then added, "I remember you said York City's long, toned thighs were great." Of course, Sugu was not a stereotypical gentleman. He always made some comments and said similar things. At this time, he said doubtfully, "How do you know?" Lexington stuck out the tip of his tongue and said, "The cliché is out. Really shady. After shopping for a long time, I finally had to get back to business." After asking passers-by for the specific address, the two bought some casually and started heading towards their destination with their things in hand. Although the town hall was built near the county seat, it was far away from the cross street in the center of the county seat. It took a long walk along a winding path next to the county middle school to reach the town hall. First of all, you can see a row of short shrubs outside the town hall. However, these shrubs look like they have not been pruned for a long time, and the branches of the shrubs are growing randomly. The wall of the town hall is very high, and there are wires on it, which makes people wonder if there is an electric grid. The walls and iron gates were covered with vines that looked like they had never been cleaned. Sugu walked to the iron gate. There was no vicious dog guarding the gate, and then looked inside. There are many ginkgo trees planted in this townhouse, but now the ginkgo leaves have fallen completely, leaving only the bare trunks, and the swing hanging under the ginkgo tree looks like it is rusty. He lowered his head and saw the large iron door lock. Even this lock was rusty and had not been opened for an unknown amount of time. All in all, the entire town hall gives people the feel of an ancient house. Is this townhouse really still open and not abandoned? No, I haven't heard of it. Lexington also hesitated. Sugu looked at the small house that looked like a guard's room next to the iron gate. Even the glass was dark and there was no one inside. Then I saw a doorbell-like button on the wall of the room. Ring the doorbell. Just wait until no one comes for 10 minutes. Lexington lowered his head and said, "No one is coming, let's continue shopping." Compared with visiting other garrison buildings, this is obviously a more important purpose. Lexington thought, well, but not long after, a black-haired beauty walked out of the town hall. The other person is tall and slender, with black hair tied on his head with a hairpin. Sugu couldn't tell what kind of ship girl the other party was at a glance. After all, there was a real gap between the game and reality, and even in the game, if the girl changed her hairstyle and clothes, there was no way to tell the difference clearly. But for Sugu, although he couldn't do it before, he had studied in the academy for such a long time. Now I can tell what kind of ship girl it is just by looking at the ship's uniform. Why do you want to find out what kind of ship girl the other party is? Because the ship girl in front of me always gives people a feeling of déjà vu. Who are you? Who are you looking for? Sugu raised his hand to indicate the gift in his hand. We are the newly appointed admirals nearby and come to visit. Soon after, the iron door was still not opened, but the black-haired woman tried her best to open a small door next to the iron door. How did you find this place? This is the back door, so it's never open. Sugu looked a little embarrassed and said, it looks like a gate. There is a middle school next to it, and those students were very noisy, so they turned this place into a back door. Do students come here often? There are too many ordinary people, which is troublesome. Except for her own admiral, the ship girl may not have a good look towards everyone. This depends on her personality. The black-haired woman lowered her head and said, for students who don't come often and are troublesome, I will tell the school to give them a major demerit. Well, you win, it's a simple and crude way. Sugu then followed the other party along the path of the town guard mansion to the end. Then he saw the admiral of this garrison. He was wearing a white admiral hat and had a serious and weather-beaten look, just like those admirals with military backgrounds in the academy. But for Sugu, he had to admit that he had met an acquaintance and had to lament that the world was really too small. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 173. It's you. Well, it's you. As the other party's voice appeared, Sugu immediately remembered the original scene. That was basically the admiral he met on the passenger ship going to look for Lexington with his little house. So this world is really too small, we can meet again like this. Of course, if we really want to talk about it, since we are all admirals, it would be easy to meet each other. He had originally heard that the other party's ship girl was Cao Sheng. Sugu turned his head and glanced at the ship girl with her black hair pulled up. This must be the other party's ship girl, that is, Cao Sheng. At this time, Cao Sheng showed a puzzled expression. She almost always accompanied her admiral but did not recognize Sugu, so she said, "Do you know him?" "Yes, we know each other. We are very familiar with each other and share the same goals." As he said this, he walked up and patted Sugu's shoulder affectionately. He seemed a little too familiar. Sugu shrugged his shoulders. It was hard to say that we were not familiar with each other at this time. However, thinking of the other party's perverted remarks on the passenger ship, he really wanted to express that we were not familiar with each other at all. Who would share the same goals with someone like you? By the way, where's the little girl you brought with you? She's called Xiaozai. I still can't forget her. You are really perverted when you are obsessed with other people's little girls. The small house is mine. No one can take it away. Anyone who wants to take the small house should step over my body first. Of course he thought so, but Sugu still said with a kind expression, "Stay at home, she won't come out." What little house? Do you still miss it? Then the admiral thought about Kaohsiung beside him, and thought that he actually used the words "never forget," and quickly said, "Don't you remember? By the way, you didn't see it in the first place. It was me who took you back to my hometown. I met him on a passenger ship. At that time, he was bringing a cute little girl with pink hair who was so tall. That little girl was Xiaozai, and she was the battleship Tirpitz." As he spoke, he raised his hand. "It means it's just a little bit high." Sugu said, "Yes, what a coincidence. I really didn't expect that the admiral of this garrison would be you." "Yeah, but why did you get off the boat halfway?" "That's where I was supposed to disembark. I was going to Gishan." With that said, the admiral waved his hand and said, "Don't talk here anymore, go to my office, and, to be honest, just come over if you come over." "Why did you bring a gift?" "It's not necessary. I took up my post at the nearby townhouse some time ago, and I just wanted to pay a visit. I asked why construction work suddenly started there some time ago. I thought the admiral who was guarding the mansion was released." "Put it back. Why is there such a huge amount of information in this passage?" Sugu thought about the passage on the wishing wall. He was captured by the gendarmerie and has not returned yet. The town hall was also confiscated and handed over to him. What heinous thing did he do? Why were you taken away? What else? The wedding destroyer, actually he was transferred. But he really wanted the marriage destroyer, and then he was discovered by the gendarmerie. So if you meet an unkind person, you can join a cult. That kind of cult can be easily entered. Is that so? It's said that everyone is new, and newbies are welcome, but there are actually a lot of big guys inside. And everyone who enters is recorded in a small book by the gendarmerie." Saying this, Sugu followed him along the path to a building, opened the door on the first floor, and said, "If you have any difficulties in the future, just come to me." By now, Sugu had to admit that the other party seemed much more normal at this time, and there was no such thing as the obscene way of making comments about various ship girls on a passenger ship. Sugu had to suspect that the other person was not the same person as the one he saw at the beginning. He was dressed in a white admiral's uniform, with every button on the clothes buttoned, and on his feet were shiny black boots, and the expression on his face was meticulous. He is tall and upright. Even if he is not an admiral, he is not wearing an admiral uniform. Just by virtue of the energy in front of him, he gives the impression that he is the kind of person who does a decent job like a doctor, lawyer, teacher, or civil servant. Facing Sugu's somewhat surprised expression, the admiral waved his hand and said, "Don't look at me with that look. I'm a serious person and I'm married now." Being able to use the word serious person means that he is obviously not a serious person. Sugu felt a little relieved. Yes, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Tian Hao, the upright Hao. And, this is the only ship girl in our townhouse, and she is also my secretary ship, my wedding ship, and my wife. She is a ship girl who has inherited the soul of the heavy cruiser Kaohsiung of the old world. She is also Kaohsiung. She is the ship girl I woke up when I was in school. It is considered my initial ship. She has been with me now. Isn't it very romantic? She has always been my proud. Since I separated from you, I got married after returning to the town hall. If you had not disembarked at that time, I think we would be able to become friends soon, and I would definitely invite you to our wedding. Speaking of which, are you studying at the academy? My instructor is Zeppelin. Although she is mainly an aircraft carrier instructor, she is an instructor for many people in the academy. I heard that there is now an Akagi who is also an aircraft carrier instructor. It's a pity. I haven't seen it, but instructor Zeppelin should be promoted by then. By the way, what's your last name? Tianhao explained his identity and that of Kaohsiung beside him. According to etiquette, Sugu had to explain the identity of Lexington's side. At the same time, Lexington looked at Sugu. She had folded her hands in front of her belly and remained silent. She just followed Sugu with a smile. But now I unexpectedly want to see how Sugu explains his identity. Minghui, surname is Sugu. This is my secretary ship, and also my wedding ship. My wife is Lexington. Hearing this, Lexington smiled sweetly and hugged Sugu's arm. Tianhao smiled and said, Lexington, you are a very powerful ship girl. Then he sat in the office and talked some words. Tianhao said, by the way, Kaohsiung, take Lexington around to look around. You have all been on the secretary ship and you should have something to talk about. I think you are still new to Lexington, so there are some you probably don't understand what's going on, but our town hall planning is already very mature and there are things worth learning from. He asked his ship girl Kaohsiung to take Lexington to visit the garrison, and then as soon as Kaohsiung walked away, Tianhao changed completely. You actually have Lexington? Did you betray us? The enemy is often not the most terrifying, but the traitor who betrays his comrades is the most hateful. Then he thought about it and found out that Sugu originally had a small turpitz called Xiaozai. It was a unique ship girl in the whole world and rarer than any turpitz. Thinking about it this way, the other party was not considered a member of the African club anyway, and at this moment he felt a little discouraged. Have you ever heard of revolution? There are revolutions happening all over the world. Yes, Sugu responded, always feeling that he couldn't keep up with the other person's rhythm. Revolution is about revolutionizing your lives, it is about revolutionizing the lives of you European seals. Seals, you know how to bask as soon as you get ashore. For everyone, the one who takes his rare ship girl everywhere to bask in the sun is a seal. After a moment of silence, he continued with tears streaming down his face, you go, take your gift with you. Go, I don't have you as a friend who betrayed my African brothers. To be honest, Sugu was really embarrassed to meet such an unreliable senior admiral. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 174. As the owner of this townhouse, Tianhao and Sugu walked inside the townhouse and looked around. The huge townhouse looked deserted everywhere. This is an amusement park. It was built 6 years ago. There are no destroyers, so it has not been used. Now it is abandoned. This is a warehouse. You can run horses inside, so I won't mention that. This is the cafeteria. It is very large and can accommodate at least hundreds of people. But now there are only 2 people in this townhouse, Kaohsiung and me, so it is also abandoned. We originally considered building a large garden here, with many exotic flowers and plants planted in it. The garden was built, but there was no one there. Soon after, Sugu and Tianhao stood in the courtyard with a Soviet-style garden style and casually chatted about the construction of the garrison. After all, this was a visit, not cooperation, so we spent a lot of time chatting and deepening our friendship. As you can see, my townhouse is very big, with many houses built inside. Why? I just graduated from the academy and I thought I would have a big home. There are many destroyers in this family, including cute short-haired girls, beautiful elementary school traders, and little girls with twin tails. They will surround me and act like a baby, and I will blow up balloons for them and lift them up. Gow. If they want, I will accompany them on the horse riding game. I think I will have a lot of light cruisers in the future, light cruisers like high school students. For example, the Sirius, the Atlanta, and of course the Helena. I want to design uniforms for them, and I want to buy them bicycles. Imagine that scene, cherry blossoms falling from the sky at a speed of 5 centimeters per second, and a girl riding a bicycle passing by. That is the most beautiful scenery. Heavy cruisers are idols. I want the Blucher. She is fleshy, has slightly curly long pink hair, holds an anchor in her hand, and then says at every turn, "I am going to hit you with the anchor." I guess I'm going to have another Quincy, sweet Quincy, stupid Quincy. Saying this, Tian Hao made an ovo expression, which was Quincy's unique look. It must be said that his facial expression is very full. I think I need a few battle cruisers for my garrison. I think she should be the Hood, the black tea Hood. She served me a cup of black tea while I was having a busy day. Legend has it that she had 2 cats. There is actually only one cat, called Ginger, and I will take care of Ginger for her. I think there will also be a counterattack, that is the lovely maid. She will change my clothes, wash my clothes, and always likes to call me master. Of course the battleship is indispensable. I like Fuzu, not because of her gentleness, but mainly because of her, which can't be grasped with one hand. Of course, I think I also have an Ellie. No, it should be called Ender. Leah, give her a wedding ring and ask her to call me dad every day. It's a little bit perverted. I want to have a Missouri, let her wear a belly band and a big windbreaker and hold a pipe, and arrange her with Megami, Mikuma and Suzutani and Kumino live together. When I walked into the dormitory, the picture was so beautiful that I didn't dare to look at it. Aircraft carrier, let's have 2 that are not too much, a dumpling ship with white hair and no mouth, which is Essex. And a Xianghe. Your Lexington is the wife, and my Xianghe is the wife next door. Hello everyone. I'm fine. Saying this, Tian Hao raised his head and looked at the sky, and said slowly, an admiral always has a submarine in his life, a little girl who can be lifted high and have water fights. She will cling to me at night and want me to hold her. She sleeps. When she wakes up in the morning, bleary-eyed, I will help her tie her twin tails. My sub, she should be a big mackerel. Sitting by the small pool, Tian Hao poked the red carp in the pool with its mouth wide open, and then said, I have thought about many things, I have thought about many things, and I have thought about many futures, but nothing came of it. I built a huge garrison, but I had nothing and could only stay here with Kaohsiung. I just graduated from the academy 7 years ago. At that time, I thought I was a destined European because I got the heavy cruiser Kaohsiung. Although Kaohsiung is only a heavy cruiser, it is also a good ship girl in the academy. At first, I thought that a person must first learn to be humble. When I met people, I would call me Mensin. Later, some people told me that Mensin didn't mean that. I didn't understand it at first, but later I understood that Mensin means big boss. From graduation to now, 7 years later, I still only have the Kaohsiung with me. One thing I have to admit is that my luck is actually not very good. I have salvaged a lot of steel over the years, but I have never been able to build it. Get out of the ship girl. Building a ship girl is not that easy. If the construction fails, you can only watch a movie. Even those rich people can't watch such movies. But it's okay, the construction is too easy. Wouldn't the ship girl become an artificial doll? Tian Hao sighed quietly, with a sense of vicissitudes of life. Everyone is born equal, but some people are more equal than others. You know what? I have a dream. When Tianhao said something, Sugu's heart skipped a beat for some reason. I have a dream that one day, Europeans, Asians, and Africans can come together, regardless of you or me. I have a dream that one day in the future everyone has a capital ship, you have a Lexington and I have an Enterprise. I dream that one day, there will be no gendarmerie in the future. Even if you hold a primary school student destroyer or a young submarine girl in your arms, no one will look at you with colored glasses, and no gendarmerie will come to you with shackles. Sugu listened and thought to himself, there should still be military police. Holding the destroyer in his arms, this is a little too much, attacking a little girl or something. I dream that one day, in the circle of admirals, there will be no competition or comparison. No one will use Europeans, Asians, or Africans to label you and me anymore. Tianhao became more and more excited as he spoke. He stood up and waved his arms in the air, saying, we must face up to the rights of Africans. Why do we have to struggle within the African circle? We can't just have Kaohsiung and Atago, and we can't just have Cossacks. USS Punjabi, and USS Eskimo, we also want to have capital ships. We also want to have main force ships. Do you know that feeling? We didn't dare to speak loudly at the banquet, we could only hide in the corner and tremble. Can you imagine? When we toasted with those Europeans, every sound of clinking glasses was a dream-broken sound. Have you ever experienced what it feels like to cry in a dream? This is discrimination. Why do they have battleships and aircraft carriers with just a wave of their hands? Why do they drive out those Europeans and return our pure land? Let everyone be equal, for this goal. Let us take up the spear to fight, let us shout, and let the voice of justice ring through the mountains and the sea. To be honest, Sugu had nothing to say now and could only offer support in his heart. Let me fulfill your dream of building a huge garrison for you. For the rest, thank you. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 175. Seriously, are you happy that you're married to Lexington? I don't know why the other party asks such a question, but I find it a bit difficult to answer. Sugu asked back, are you happily married to Kaohsiung? Did you know? Marriage is a besieged city. People outside the city want to get in, and people in the city want to get out. As he said this, Tianhao stared at the weeds on the ground. Although I don't know exactly what it means, I have heard it once before and now I feel so powerful that I said it. I still remember when I first became an admiral. At that time, my ideal wedding ship was married woman Yuxian. Although she was only a light cruiser, her slender neck, slender figure, and gentle words made her, she is always soothing your soul. She will prepare dinner for you when you need it, and squeeze your shoulders when you are tired. Tianhao looked at Sugu and thought that his descendant's wedding ship was Lexington. My ideal wedding ship is Xianghe. She is not only an aircraft carrier, but can also bring the garrison to victory again and again. She can do well both at work and in cooking. Just imagine it occasionally, you finish your day's work and return home exhausted. Then Xianghe stands at the door and says to you, do you want to eat? Take a shower? Or do you want to eat me? Or, do you want to eat me? Eat me? Or eat me? Or eat me? It's just that Yuxian is rare. I have never seen a few Yuxian. But every Yuxian I have seen has left a deep impression on me. Yuxian is gentle as water. Saratoga is quirky. Lion is a proud queen. When you are together, she will raise her head proudly and say, I want to be on top. Tirpitz is a homebody. When you want to do something, she looks at the book and urges you to hurry up. This is my dream, to marry many, many ship girls. It's just that ideals are ideals after all. Back to reality. I don't have Yuxian, Lexington, or Xianghe, only Kaohsiung. Sugu was listening and inadvertently looked up, and suddenly saw Kaohsiung and Lexington standing behind Tian Hao. He wanted to remind him, but Kaohsiung's cold eyes stared at him, so at this moment he could only think to himself, "You are asking for blessings." However, Tian Hao was still at a loss. He continued, "Did you know? Kaohsiung has always wanted to practice her cooking skills, but her cooking skills have not grown. You are a newcomer, and I don't want you to be exposed to nightmares, but have you ever experienced death? There is great terror between life and death. Come to my place as a guest often when you have time, and you will have the opportunity to experience it." Sugu thought of Kaohsiung's cooking skills in the game, and after thinking about it, he burst into tears for his senior, who was truly a role model for our generation. "Kaohsiung, Kaohsiung. When we got married, we treated each other with respect and treated each other as equals. But later on, we still fell into a trap of daily necessities. I told you that marriage should not be taken lightly. Although there is no such thing as a perfect match when marrying a ship girl, the three views must be consistent. It's just like when sleeping, I want everyone to cover themselves with a quilt, but she wants to cover them separately. It's a mistake. Just like when eating, she likes to bring me vegetables, but I don't like it. I like to eat meat, not vegetables. It's hard to say whether you are happy or not, that's how life is anyway. So are you happy or not?" Since they all wanted to die like this, Sugu said, "Be happy." Tian Hao became more alert. He was waiting for the sentence. At this time, he raised his arm and said, "Happiness." This is such a perfunctory answer. Consultant Su asked, "Why do you say that? How can we be happy if we don't have enough wedding ships?" As soon as he finished speaking, Kaohsiung's voice rang out, "Who do you want to marry? How much do you want to marry?" To be honest, this was the first time in so many years that Sugu saw a person jump up after being frightened. After returning from the visit, I was walking in my own townhouse. The entire townhouse looked a little empty, with only short shrubs and yellowing turf visible. It's a bit cold in winter, no one wants to run outside, and everything is quiet. After walking for a while, he saw Fletcher holding a bucket and watering the flowers. She was wearing a maid outfit. Sugu did not expect that the girl had such a hobby as a maid. After watching a big show, Sugu smiled and told Lexington what he and Tian Hao had said. For example, there are so many places in Tian Hao's place, such as playgrounds, activity rooms, and everything, but there is no ship girl. For example, Tian Hao said that he wanted to marry many ship girls. He had thought about everything, including how to cultivate favorability and when to give gifts, but there were no ship girls. For another example, Tian Hao also told himself what kind of personality the ship girl would have. What Prince of Wales? You want to be her brother first. What's the lion's name? You can't show timidity in front of her. You have to show your abilities. Lions definitely like strong men. What if it's Fuzu? Everything has been thought of, except for the ship girl. Saying this, Sugu walked into the corridor and suddenly noticed that Lexington looked worried. Consultant Su asked, "What's going on?" "Nothing," Lexington said. "Bad mood." Lexington shook his head. "Uncomfortable." Lexington still shook his head and said for a long time, "Speaking of which, many people in the garrison have a good impression of the admiral." Well enough. Now Sugu is actually not that resistant. Thinking of the game is of course different from reality. The game is not gal game. There is no need to give gifts or go through the plot to increase his favor. Just continue to attack an expedition, or repeatedly set up the secretary ship, you can increase the upper limit of happiness. Think about it, a ship girl with 100 favors who can get married as long as she gives a ring is at least over 100. Especially those that are powerful and those with good-looking portraits, almost all have a favorable opinion of 100. Of course, there are certainly none that have not been fished out or built. Lexington said, "The Admiral is married to many people, including me, Gaga, Bismarck and Bazai. If this is the real situation, I am single, but if I count it according to the game, I have given rings to many people, so I am considered married to many people." Without waiting for Sugu to answer, Lexington continued, "Admiral, now I have a question for you." Lexington held her chest with her hands, her head lowered, her long flaxen hair hanging down to cover the side of her face. It was getting late, the air was cold, and Lexington looked lonely and lonely. Sugu said doubtfully, "Lexington, what's going on? Do you have any questions you want to ask?" Lexington looked up at Sugu and said, "What Tianhao said, Admiral probably just found it interesting. When I saw them, I suddenly realized that their relationship is different from ours. I have always wanted to ask a question, is it true that we are like this, is this considered a marriage? Am I really considered your wedding ship?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 176. The room is decorated in warm colors and has a carved wooden bed. Although it is carved, it is just a gimmick and the price is not expensive. There are wardrobes, desks, and dressing tables placed around the room. With so many pieces of furniture placed together, it doesn't look like the room is very big. At this time, Saratoga was wrapped in a quilt on the bed by the window in the room and said, "Sister, why do you look so worried?" The long flaxen hair was not draped behind her back, but was divided into two bunches and hung down on her chest, exposing her slender neck. Lexington said, "It's nothing." Saratoga said reluctantly, "But he just looks worried." Lexington lowered his head, thinking about the question he asked in the afternoon. It's just that she wasn't someone who liked to force others. When she saw her admiral's hesitation and doubts, she could only empathetically leave him with the words "think about it carefully" and left. In fact, regarding this issue, Lexington has always been thinking about it, although in the past he always thought about it and let it go. But today I followed the admiral to visit someone else's garrison. At first, I followed Kaohsiung around the garrison. Later, I heard the admiral of Kaohsiung talking there. I originally stood by and listened with an interesting attitude, thinking that the final ending would be wonderful. Then I heard that sentence, "It's like when I'm sleeping, I want everyone to cover themselves with a quilt, but she wants to cover them separately, which is wrong. It's like when eating, she likes to pick up food for me, but I don't like it." In this case, regardless of whether Tianhao likes Kaohsiung or not, let's look at it from another perspective. They slept together, they served each other food. Thinking about the relationship between myself and the admiral, I thought it was normal at first, but then after hearing those words, I felt that the relationship between myself and the admiral was abnormal. Originally, it should be a very ordinary thing, a very common thing, but even if it is such a thing, I have never experienced it with the admiral. Kaohsiung is Tianhao's wedding ship, and he is also his own admiral's wedding ship. I don't know when I will start to feel sad. When I watch the excitement and see myself sad, I am the only one who will be in this situation. Sister, Akaga came to see the admiral in the evening. The admiral went to Akaga's room for a long time before he came out. Just helping. I don't know who instigated Fletcher. These days he always runs to the admiral and brings tea and water. Leipzig is sharp-tongued and doesn't seem to care. He always talks about salary in front of the admiral. In fact, he just wants to talk to the admiral. Okay, Jia, please stop talking. I'm going out for a walk. Hearing what his sister Saratoga said, Lexington suddenly felt a little irritable. She opened the door and walked out of the room wearing fur slippers and thin pajamas. But there were no other men in the town hall, so it didn't matter even if he was walking around in his pajamas. Not long after, she stood at the end of the corridor. There was a window at the end. When she opened the window, the cold wind came in and blew her long hair up. Thinking about various things, she stood at the end of the corridor and blew in the wind for a long time. When she was about to go back to her room, she met York City. "Sister Lexington, why are you here?" "Nothing, I'm ready to go back." Along the way, he passed by his admiral's room. By some strange mistake, Lexington walked to the door and knocked. "I asked the question in the afternoon, and now I want to listen to it." "Knock on the door." After a long time, the door was pushed open, and a head protruded from the room. It was Sigsby's head. "Why is Sigsby here?" Lexington looked inside the room, seeing Ziazai, Firefly, Thatcher, and Sullivan. The little girls were all lying together in their pajamas, looking like they were telling a story. "The Admiral is telling us a story? Sister Lexington, do you want to listen?" I just raised the question and asked him to think about it carefully. Did he forget it when he looked back? Now I'm actually telling a story to a little girl. Thinking of this, Lexington pursed his lips, slightly annoyed. Gritting his teeth, Lexington waved to the little girl in the room and said, "I'll take you to eat something delicious." When Lexington said such words, everyone in the room was a little confused at first, and then cheered. Of course they trust Lexington very much. If this were the case for Bazai, their trustworthiness would be greatly reduced. If this were the case in Saratoga, everyone would wonder if they were being pranked and there would be a trap waiting for them. For example, put toothpaste between cookies and treat it as milk. Sugu suddenly saw Lexington on the other side and said, "Lexington? How did you know they were here with me, and why did you suddenly want to take them for a late-night snack?" "Nothing," Lexington said, watching several little girls walk out of the room one after another. A few little girls were walking in the corridor, waiting for a late-night snack. Then they turned around and suddenly saw the door closed. Then a voice came from the room, "You go to Gaga to ask for a midnight snack. I bought biscuits and dried fruits." She didn't give them to her, so she just said it was me. To be honest, a few little girls stood outside the corridor a little confused. Then they started knocking on the door, but the door was locked. In the room, Lexington was leaning against the door, panting, his face flushed. After all, she is a gentle and elegant woman, and occasionally a little bit sinister, but she is definitely not as bold as her sister. As a sister, she always needs to be more mature. Outside the room. "Sister Lexington! Sister Lexington!" The little girl screamed like this for a while. The knocking on the door gradually disappeared, and Lexington sat on the ground in the room. Even if you are a ship girl, under normal circumstances, even demolishing a tall building with your bare hands is just the same thing. However, at this time, her whole body was sore and weak, and she was leaning against the door, feeling that she couldn't use any strength inside her. At this time, she hugged her legs with both hands. The image of a wife in the past disappeared, and now she looked like a girl. "It was too bold of me to lock my admiral in the room. If you go out, you won't give it out anyway, if you don't give an answer. It's still a question from this afternoon. Admiral, do you really like us? I just want to ask if the admiral likes me. At least give me a reply." Sugu said, "Why do you ask such a question? In the evening, Akagi asked you for help, and you went there without saying a word. York City asked you for help, and you went without saying a word." Sugu said, "You asked me to help, and I went too." Lexington said in a low voice, "That's why, they are like this when they don't get a ring, and we are like this too. Whether we are a wedding ship or not, it doesn't make any difference at all. There is nothing special at all. It's just random anyway, call and be there. That's it. Sometimes I think about it. Although I got the ring, I am no different from those who didn't get the ring. I still sleep with Gaga every day, and I have never slept with you. I get up every morning and do everyone's work. Sometimes I cook the food, and sometimes Prince Eugene cooks it. Think about it, I don't have anything unique. Whatever happens to Akagi and the others every day is what I am. The same goes for York City. How she is every day is what I am. Apart from being a secretary ship, I am no different. There is nothing special that needs to be treated. Sometimes I think about it, I am no different from Akagi and York City. No one shows any intimacy, and you don't kiss or cuddle with anyone. Even if Beizai occasionally sleeps on your lap, he can feel that your whole body is stiff, and you don't seem to be doing anything. It looks a bit like your husband. That is, when Xiao Zai sleeps on your lap, I am very happy to see your expression. But Xiao Zai is just a child, so there is no analogy at all. You are very good to everyone. No matter who calls you, you are always available. It's not that you are not good, I am saying that you are very good and you are good to everyone. So I have never understood, if we are married, if so, then why haven't we done anything special? If it's a wedding ship, what's the difference between us and York City? If we are husband and wife, we should at least do something. Regarding our identities, what does the Admiral consider? At the beginning, you looked at me as a stranger. You said you couldn't remember too many things. In fact, I can't remember much about the memories before you left. I thought you were shy at first, but it's been almost half a year since autumn, and you're already familiar with it no matter what. I heard from Kaohsiung that she and her Admiral both slept together. Together? What about us? Whether it's me, Jia, Bismarck or Beizai, you have never done anything intimate with anyone. Even if you don't like me, you should like Jia. If you don't like Jia, what about Beizai? Sometimes I just think that our relationship is probably like this. We want to get married, you give us a ring, and then we get married, and then we don't do anything else, without any special circumstances. This way. Is this considered a marriage? Am I really considered a wedding ship? Have you ever liked us? How could you do this? Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 177. Lexington felt a little guilty after using deception to trick a group of little girls out of the room. But if you really want to say it, compared to what you want to know, lying to the little girl is actually a trivial matter. But when I came back from the visit, I did go to the county town to buy biscuits and dried fruits. That was not a lie. At this time, Lexington was leaning against the door, feeling shy when speaking such a long sentence. But if you really want to say that she is gentle and timid, running over with her head in a foggy state, that is not the case. During the time when I left the garrison and met my admiral, I worked many jobs and met many people. Of course, the pursuers also met many, and the pursuers were all in disarray. If the other party pursues her openly, she will directly say that she is married. If the other person has a hesitant secret love, then there is really no other way but to occasionally mention that he is married. There are also people who want to use small tricks, such as inviting you to dinner and drinks, but they never like drinking when they go out. There are also people who want to use money or position to seduce them, so of course they should be punished with harsh words and harsh words. If some dishonorable means are used, such as medicine, it is a pity that as a ship girl, she can see through people's hearts at a glance. To deal with such people, of course, she will use a sharp slap. To say that Lexington is a truly gentle woman, she is not. She is gentle on the outside and strong on the inside. This is Lexington. I have always been gentle in front of my own people. When working, I clearly distinguish when and how to behave. At this time, he came over and wanted to ask questions and receive special treatment. In fact, he didn't just come over with a blank mind. Of course, when I came here now, I didn't actually want to do anything. The ship girl itself is an elf or heroic spirit born in steel. As such a being, of course, it will not be attracted by pheromones or controlled by hormones. You should do something just because you want to do it. If you do something to express your feelings, then do it. Just like holding hands and kissing, it's not because you like these things, but because these are done by people who have feelings for each other. Just do it for the sake of that feeling. So some further relationships obviously require more feelings, but if you really have feelings, why not do it? If you don't do it, is it because you have no feelings? But now she doesn't have to do anything, she just wants an answer. On the other side, Sugu looked at Lexington, who was sitting on the ground. His behavior was indeed completely different from the usual gentle and virtuous wife. At this time, seeing Lexington say such a long sentence, he doubted his identity. To be honest, he didn't understand the situation at first. But just like what Lexington said, in fact, he has never assumed the identity of her husband, and has always been getting along with everyone as friends. Maybe for everyone, I am an irreplaceable admiral, but for a long time, I have known that for me, whether it is Lexington or Xiaozai, the data is. Since it is game data, if you like the pretty ones, dislike the not attractive ones, like the strong ones, and dislike the weak ones, there is no emotional factor in it at all. Just like when I first met Xiaozai in the abandoned town mansion, I wanted to talk to her at first because the little girl was cute. At that time, Xiaozai said that they wanted to rebuild the garrison together. For me, it was not because of inseparable feelings but because it was fun. Of course, there was still a little bit of emotion. When I first saw Lexington, it was actually a misunderstanding. I didn't really care about the misunderstanding at all. If Lexington really married someone else, he would be distressed for a day at most, and then he would take Xiao Zhao with him to find someone else, Bismarck or Hood. Later, when I felt Lexington's feelings, of course I could do whatever I wanted. For a man, it was really good to have a beautiful woman take away from him. But it can be said that it's due to personality or something else. In short, I don't want to do it. However, after such a long time, in fact, the opponent is no longer regarded as game data. So how could he not have a good impression of a gentle, virtuous, and beautiful woman like Lexington? But what I want to do is just thinking about my identity as an admiral, and if I say something, I always feel that it will feel forced. Although she looks like a gentle woman, Sugu also knows that Lexington has done many jobs along the way, from finance to clerk. She is capable and strong, not because of her appearance, but because of her gentleness. Lexington took his sister Saratoga alone. It had to be said that Saratoga was really useless. Without living in society as a ship girl, Lexington can be said to be a perfect woman from any angle, both as a person and in work. For such a person to be able to stay by his side for such a long time, and to say something shameless from a personal perspective, it is simply because of love. It is precisely because of this feeling that I don't want to do some things. Lexington never showed anything, so he never knew that doing nothing would put so much pressure on the opponent. Looking at Lexington at this time, Sugu said, "You have to ask me if I like it. To be honest, of course a woman like you likes it. But how should I say it? Remember I told you before, I can't remember everyone, and my feelings are relatively fuzzy to me." Lexington showed a miserable expression and said, "It can't be done. I organized the language in my heart, and of course I couldn't tell secrets like the game." Wanting to express this idea in a reasonable way, Sugu knocked on the tabletop of the bedside table. "Since I don't remember your memories, your liking for me has always been a very false feeling for me. I don't want to use this false feeling to bind you. After we have been together for so long, you probably know me. What does it look like? Anyway, this is what I look like. Sometimes I am lazy, sometimes I am more diligent. My height is just like that, my appearance is just like ordinary people, my abilities are the same, and most importantly, I have no ambition and like to be lazy. Sugu continued, you ask me if I like you? Of course I do. But how do you say it? Just like when we met, I have never liked to show my identity as an admiral. As a being, you are not who, of course, as a vassal, you also have the right to like or dislike someone. I will not act like an admiral. If you see me like this and want to leave, I will not stop you. I hope that you are by my side not because I am an admiral, but because I am a really good person. You said you should do certain things. For me, of course I want to do it. After all, you are so beautiful. I am a man, and men do not suffer when doing these things. I like you, I like Gaga, I like Bayside, and I like Bismarck, even like San Juan, like York City. As a man, how can you not like such a beautiful person? I like that you like me as I am now, not whatever I am. When Sugu finished speaking these words, the surroundings became silent. After a while, Lexington raised his head and said, then let me ask a question. Sugu nodded and said, yeah, let's talk. I'll answer any questions you have. Will the Admiral abandon us? Of course not. Will the Admiral beat and scold us? That won't happen either. Lexington said, then what do you think feelings are? What kind of feelings are real and what kind of feelings are false? To be honest, Sugu really didn't know how to answer this question. Lexington continued, just like ordinary people, sometimes they fall in love with someone for no reason. Are these feelings false or real? Emotions cannot be quantified, and 1 + 1 = 2. If you like it, you like it, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. If you think our feelings are false, how can we prove that they are real? I like you, if you like me, then we will get married. If we don't like each other, then we will divorce. Of course, if you want a divorce, I will kill you. It's better not to kill him. Lexington looked at Sugu and said slowly, if I like it, I like it. I don't want to prove whether my feelings are real or false. Originally, I like it because I am in a good mood and like to be together. Since it satisfies my heart, so what does it matter whether it's real love or false love? Just like feelings, you humans always say that love between men and women is attracted by pheromones and controlled by hormones, so can I say that your feelings are also it's just controlled by hormones? Some things are meaningless if they are too detailed and too entangled. Lexington lowered his head, originally thinking that some things would fall into place, but after finding both Bismarck and Bazai, there was still no progress. I remember that after I went to my admiral for an interview, when I talked about Akage, it was the first time that he said love words to me. I don't know whether I should say it was voluntary or forced. I remember that it was because of Gaga's incident that I had a chance to try on Fletcher's maid outfit, and it was not until later that I had my first kiss. Until now, my own admiral said that he was a fool, but he understood everything most of the time. It was absolutely impossible to say that he knew nothing about men and women. But I didn't expect it to be for this reason. Lexington said, Admiral, I like you, no matter whether this feeling is false or real. As long as I feel comfortable and happy to be around you, that's enough. Let's treat this feeling as false. Yes, what does it matter? I just feel very comfortable. Anyway, Admiral, you won't abandon us. Sugu said, of course not. To use a metaphor, even if the relationship is false, if I suddenly think about it and I don't like you, then the Lexington who doesn't like you will definitely not be the current Lexington. The current Lexington likes you and wants to. I want everyone's feelings to be deeper. If you insist on talking about the future, There is no way to predict the future. What if I want the world to be destroyed? Shouldn't everyone do nothing? I'm struggling with such inexplicable things. You're yelling about false memories. You can just deny me. For example, if a ship girl can easily like her admiral, then do I mean that all ship girls are not worthy of marriage? Because the ship girl likes the admiral because that person is the admiral, not because the admiral is a great person. Saying this, Lexington hugged Sugu's neck from behind. Ship girl, you are not a serious life to begin with. I don't care if it's pheromones, hormones, false memories, or any other mess. Anyway, Lexington likes you now, so you can take care of it. To be honest, Sugu was shocked by Lexington's words. I have to say that I really like Lexington like this. Saying this, Lexington took off his pajamas, revealing his mature body. Just like that, something wonderful is happening. A rustling sound rang out in the port area at night, followed by gasps. After a long time there was a sound. Admiral, you said you like Gaga, Bismarck, even San Juan, York City, you are so lustful. You actually remember, just talk about it. Regardless of whether you are serious or casual, I am the eldest wife anyway. You have many weddings. No matter what you do in the future, you must sleep with me at least one day a week. Moreover, if you want to marry Sheikh Hung in the future, then Sheikh Hung will give you serve tea. If you want to marry Richelieu, then Richelieu will also serve me tea. If you want to marry Veneto later, then Veneto will also serve me tea. Forget it about Akagi and Richelieu. What do you mean about Veneto? She is still a child. I've written down what you said, and I'll tell Veneto when I meet her in the future. Sugu smiled bitterly. It's still early, how about doing it again? In the port area at night, the moonlight shines into the room from the window and is cut into squares by the fence. Everything is beautiful. Zai was sleeping with Bismarck in his arms. Zai was wearing pajamas and a coat. At this time, she was quietly hiding in the cloakroom with a flashlight and reading a book. York City was lying on her bed, covered with 2 layers of quilts, not because the quilts were not warm, but mainly because she liked a little weight. Leipzig hid under the quilt and counted how much money he had. It was a necessary homework before going to bed every night. Firefly has no sisters and dare not sleep alone, so she sleeps in the same room as Prince Eugen. Of course I have to say nothing good. The girl Saratoga was curled up under the quilt alone. When it was still early before going to bed, several little girls originally knocked on the door and came in asking for biscuits and dried fruits. They said that their sister Lexington was in trouble with the admiral, so they were kicked out of the room and asked to ask for biscuits. Although she looked cold on the outside, she was actually someone who was afraid of chaos in the world. After the little girls left, she hid under the quilt and snickered. Anyway, the admiral is good-tempered, and my sister is also good-tempered, so there won't be any problems even if they quarrel. It's just that she waited for a long time, but her sister didn't come back. She tossed and turned on the bed and changed many sleeping positions but couldn't fall asleep. It wasn't because she couldn't sleep without her sister's arms, or because she was worried about her sister's safety. She just felt that something terrible might have happened. My sister didn't come back. After a long time. My sister still hasn't come back. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 178. The early morning light poured into the room. Lexington curled his legs under the quilt, and the smooth arms belonging to a woman stretched out from the quilt. Then her fingers groped for the pajamas beside the bed, which she had taken off last night. Thinking of the bold thing she did last night, her face suddenly turned red. Lexington had never been in the habit of sleeping in. At this moment, he wanted to get out of bed and lifted half of the quilt. Then he saw the sleeping man next to him and involuntarily reduced the range of his movements. After all, it was no longer the time to sleep alone. In order not to disturb the people around him, Lexington slowly climbed out of bed and stood by the bed to pick up his pajamas. Just thinking about my actions yesterday, I feel a little ashamed now, but I also smile happily. When doing something like this for the first time, the emotional sublimation is more important than the compatibility. At this time, she was walking on the ground with her feet, putting on her pajamas amidst the rustling sounds. Suddenly he thought that he had gone out alone last night on the pretext of having something to do, and that his sister Saratoga had been waiting for him. Gia, I don't know what the reaction will be now. Scold yourself? Definitely not, but you will definitely be stared at with resentful eyes for a long time. Saratoga probably guessed something, but Bismarck and Bizai probably didn't know. What would they think if they were discovered? But if you think about it, you don't need to care at all. In the original garrison, you were considered the #1 wedding ship. Now even if you do it, it's no big deal. It's a matter of course. Looking around now, he saw his admiral sleeping on the bed, lying on his side. Thinking of his actions last night, his face turned red again. He was probably really tired. Just like that, Lexington put on his pajamas, and then picked up the pocket watch on the bedside table. It was the pocket watch that San Juan gave to his admiral. Looking at the pointer on it pointing in the direction of 6, it was still early morning. Then he closed the pocket watch, and suddenly thought that the pocket watch owed something, and that was his photo. Lexington put on his pajamas and fur slippers, carefully opened the door, and looked out through the crack in the door. There was no one outside the corridor. Ha, this is the best, this is the thought that suddenly arises. Some things have been done, and he no longer cares about his relationship with the admiral. Now that he stayed up all night in the admiral's room, he suddenly didn't want anyone to know. Prince Eugen is usually the first to get up. This girl unexpectedly has a side that wants to protect everyone. Looking over, the door of the room belonging to Prince Eugen was still closed. Thinking about it like this, it seemed that no one knew about what happened yesterday. She just thought so. In fact, she also knew that it was difficult to hide it from others, but in the final analysis, wasn't this just an ostrich mentality? I have always been worried about myself and the admiral, but that's right, from the time I met in autumn to now after the new year, it's almost New Year's Eve. Although they have been living together for a long time, the admiral is respectful and polite. If they are just ordinary friends, it would be fine. But since he is the other person's wedding ship, the relationship cannot be like this. Sometimes I wonder if I am hated, otherwise why I did not take any action for such a long time. Moreover, Saratoga went shopping with him. Compared to his sister, although she was gentle, she still looked like a goose compared to her. But anyway, all these thoughts are over. From now on, he needs to take on the responsibilities of admiral and husband. Just think about the fact that the responsibilities of being an admiral are not too important. He can do all the things in the guardhouse by himself, so the admiral has to shoulder the responsibilities of being a husband. There was no one in the corridor, so he walked quickly through the corridor to his room. Quickly opening and closing the door, his sister Saratoga was still asleep. That's good. Otherwise, it would be a little embarrassing if my sister asked me now. Then Lexington stood in the room, took off his pajamas, and wanted to put on his underwear. At this time, he thought it would be better to take a shower first. Soon after, he washed his body, put on pantyhose, and then changed into a skirt. Then he sat in front of the dressing table, took his wet long hair to one side, and wiped it with a towel. Of course, there is no way to dry long hair at once, so you can only wipe it with a towel over and over again. At this time, she just thought to herself that she would have to go back later. The admiral hadn't woken up yet, so she had to pack some things. Xiao Zai always likes to knock on the admiral's door in the morning. There are some things that the little girl cannot see. Bismarck and the others should be waking up soon, so. Thinking this way, Lexington suddenly heard a voice and his whole body stiffened. "Sister," Saratoga's voice suddenly came out. "Sister, where did you go yesterday?" "Calm down," I told myself this in my heart. At this time, I wanted to keep a straight face as usual, but I couldn't control the smile on my face. Lexington said, "I have something to discuss with the Admiral. It's too late, so I didn't come back so as not to wake you up." The girl showed a suspicious expression and said, "Are you sleeping together? If you say no, you definitely don't believe it." My sister is always particularly keen in some aspects. Lexington showed an indifferent expression and said, "Yeah, sleep together." Saratoga reached out her hand from under the quilt, then exposed her delicate collarbone, rubbed her long hair that was messy due to rolling over last night, and said, "Did you do it? Don't think about what has been done or not done." "What? I'm not imagining it." Lexington didn't answer, and then smiled and said, "What would you like to have for breakfast today?" The Admiral should prepare breakfast today. At this time, there were not many people in the garrison, and even one person could prepare breakfast in time. Akagi and Bismarck were not good at these things. York City wanted to do it, but since she broke many bowls and made several dark dishes, no one has any demands on her anymore. The kids wanted to do it, but they could only add to the chaos. It doesn't matter if you help him occasionally. Whatever he wants to eat, bread, milk or soy milk and fried dough sticks. Although we occasionally go to nearby counties and small towns to supply supplies, the garrison has just started and everything is waiting to be done. The canteen is temporarily unable to get on track. If you want to eat something, that's all. However, Saratoga just curled her lips and said, "I don't even want to eat, I want to sleep." "Still sleeping? Didn't you sleep well yesterday? You look like you have heavy bags under your eyes." "It's not the bags under my eyes, it's the lying silkworms." After saying this, Saratoga suddenly got into the quilt. She snorted, but she thought to herself, "Liar, I knew what was going on when I saw your smile. I always worry about the past and always feel that I have not done well in some way because she is the first wedding party, she is always called Madam, and she is more stressed than anyone else, but today I saw a smile." He missed a move and was overtaken by his sister. He usually looks serious, but in the end he was not like this. And I stayed at the door and listened to the story for a while. Who could I lie to? Now I have even lied to my own sister. In the past, I kept saying that no night raids were allowed, and that girls should be reserved. But in the end, who was doing the night raids? Oppressive rule. Huh, that sneaky cat. Tears welled up in his eyes. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 179. After so many days since I got the tutelage, as an admiral, I still have nothing to do. There is still no deep-sea ship girl in my own sea area, and I have no way to show off my skills. After all, the appearance of deep-sea ship girls is not too frequent, otherwise there would be no way to live on the beach. In fact, many people now regard deep-sea ship girls as a kind of natural disaster. Not meeting the deep-sea ship girl makes people feel disappointed. Of course, if this idea is known to others, it is wrong for an admiral to actually hope that the deep-sea ship girl will appear. In any case, there is always a feeling that a doctor hopes that business will prosper. However, the relationship with Lexington just took a step higher yesterday, which makes people feel comfortable. After all, I am still a human being, and I have found a close relationship with the person I like. It is worth being happy for many days. At this time, Sugu was sitting in the office. In a few days, let San Juan, no, let me go out for a run one day. I need to buy some New Year's goods and some red envelopes. Then I will give the children lucky money. Xiazai, Firefly, Sullivan, 11 Jersby, and Thatcher, 5 of them. Then Sugu added, think about it, Fletcher is considered a child or an adult. She doesn't look like a primary school student at all, however, according to the customs in our hometown, if you are not married, you are not an adult. Everyone should have lucky money, so San Juan, Leipzig, everyone should have it. Lexington said, San Juan, they are all okay and know how to behave. But children, even if you like them, you can't give them random money. You can give them as much pocket money as you want every day. New Year's money is special. And speaking of it, they don't have anywhere to spend the money. Let's open a shop in the town hall. Saying this, Sugu remembered that he hadn't done much in such a short period of half a year. If he was just an ordinary admiral, it would be fine to live like this. But he was burdened with the responsibility of finding everyone who originally guarded the mansion, so it seemed a bit procrastinating, but he didn't have enough information. At this time, he was sitting behind his desk and looking out the window. It was his own townhouse, the size of the junior high school in his memory. I remember when I was in junior high school, there were hundreds of people in that small normal middle school. As for his own garrison of the same size, there are only a dozen or so people here. At this time, the entire garrison seemed very empty. Sugu said, speaking of which, after the new year, we have to go around. When everyone is here, it will be very lively. Lexington said, Alaska and Guam love rock music, find them. Think about it, if you don't care, they can rock and roll all day and be lively all day. Lexington said this, and Sugu imagined how the characters in the game would appear in reality. According to the situation in the game, the 6th Destroyer Team, the 6th Destroyer Team, and Xiaoxiang Raiden are the Underpants Team. Wonder if they can actually run around in their underwear and not feel ashamed. The Z-series destroyers also seem to be the ones who don't wear pants. Even after being transformed into girls, they don't seem to be wearing pants. If I find them like that, then I'm really looking forward to it. There is also Utopia, the little princess in Utopia. Just think about it and you will think it will be very cute. So after the transformation, Utopia is a little girl or a girl. Think about the possibility of a flopping fantasy. I fell down and had to be kissed before I could get up. Thinking about such a scene is enough to look forward to. Lafitte is also his favorite destroyer, and he doesn't know what it will be like. Quincy, nicknamed Quincy the Weed Eater, is probably easily incited to do all kinds of stupid things, but since she's a stupid person, it doesn't matter. But her sister New Orleans will definitely take good care of her and take care of her sister. But Quincy, Ovo, is interesting to think about. Did Hood really stuff a cat in his? Poor cat. Think about Hood walking, and suddenly everyone noticed that her vagina was moving, then the scene must be particularly exciting. Thinking like this, Sugu said, Exeter didn't come over during the New Year, so I must invite her on New Year's Eve. But I sent her a letter, but she didn't come over. It turns out that she also said she would wait for her sister York. I didn't come until I got back. I don't know if I want to invite you. Lexington glanced at Sugu and said, You really don't understand women's hearts. Do you believe everything she says? Although she is a ship girl, she is also a woman. Women, their favorite thing is duplicity. You don't mean it anymore. Go and invite her, or you and I will go and invite her. Do you see Exeter all alone on an island? How can it be as exaggerated as you said, lonely? Although he really wanted to say this, Sugu still didn't refute. At this time, he thought for a moment and said, Then go find Exeter in 2 days. He has now settled on his identity and mentality as an admiral. After all, he has experienced so much time and felt so many emotions, and he will not regard everything as game data as he did at the beginning. There will be the Prince of Wales after Exeter. Kage may write to Akage. Akage has already asked people to pay attention to the letter to her then. There will be many things next year. Then there was another whole day of doing nothing. In the afternoon, we went to the cafeteria to eat and everyone gathered together. Sugu cleared his throat and wanted to speak. At this time, he walked out of his seat, and Lexington straightened his collar for him. This was a rare display of intimacy in the past, but now it has become a matter of course. Even Bismarck could see her radiant posture at this time. Her posture and temperament had changed drastically from the previous days. Sugu accepted Lexington's action as a matter of course, and then announced that he would go to Exeter in a few days. Sugu finished announcing his intention to find Exeter and returned to his seat. Saratoga sat next to him and said, "Brother-in-law, what did you and your sister do last night?" Sugu looked at Saratoga, and the girl asked herself, Lexington must have not told her, so she wouldn't say it either. After all, this kind of thing can only be understood, not expressed. Moreover, if I really told Saratoga, there might be something wrong. On the other hand, Saratoga was a little aggrieved that his admiral refused to answer his questions. The girl split the eggs with a fork, looking like she was venting her anger. If my sister doesn't say it, you won't say it either. Although I have known such things for a long time, I still want to hear them say it. At this time, Saratoga looked around. Akage was a dignified lady, Thatcher and Sullivan were playing around, and Zayazai was carefully picking out the things he didn't like to eat from the dishes. Then Bismarck looked at him and said, "Eat it honestly." Soon after, Saratoga thought for a while, then she took her bowl and sat next to Bizai, and then the two of them started whispering as if no one was watching. Let me tell you. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 180. Bismarck stood in front of the mirror in the room and straightened her short silver gray hair. She had just gotten out of bed and was still wearing plain white pajamas. Then she stayed in her pajamas and took out a change of black trousers from the closet. Black and blue trousers had always been her preference. She rarely wore skirts after leaving the disintegrated townhouse. It has become a habit. At this time, before the clothes were changed, a voice came over. "Sister, you can't do this." Not paying attention to his sister's words, Bismarck shook out his long clothes and trousers to prevent them from getting wrinkled when worn. "The Admiral will never like you when you look like this. You have short hair and you look like a man when you put on clothes like this. Men like men." To outsiders, Bismarck in military uniform is undoubtedly handsome, but compared to a man, the lines on her face are too soft, whether her eyebrows, nose, or lips are too feminine, unless she is very far away, and deliberately ignoring that who can be called proud even as a woman may be said to be a man. However, a person cannot always evaluate himself well. At this time, Bismarck, who was about to wear a long black coat and trousers, suddenly stopped when he heard his sister's words. Bismarck, who had always been shrewd and capable, had some doubts about his own image for the first time. "I don't know what my sister's opinions are. Although she looks unreliable, it's like when we fought together in the past, Beizai is still a strong person when he is serious." Thinking like this, she decided to give Beizai a chance. There was no one else in the room at this time. After all, they had just gotten up in the morning, and Prince Eugen and Leipzig no longer lived together. Xiaozai is an unconscious and impatient little girl. She has slept in everyone's room these days, and today I remember sleeping with Thatcher. Xiaozai didn't sleep here, so Beizai was more casual. She was originally nestled under the quilt, but now she stuck her head out. It doesn't matter if her long pink hair is messy. Anyway, it seems that her sister won't talk about herself at this time. Beizai was lying on the bed. When he saw his sister's puzzled expression, he became more and more bold and proud. Although I usually speak softly, I can't do that anymore. A few days ago, Saratoga and Saratoga talked for so long in the cafeteria. Saratoga said over and over again, "I can't let my sister's family dominate. She must be put under pressure before she can think of her role as a younger sister. Bismarck is just right, the contrast is cute." Originally I thought it was very troublesome and didn't want to do it. But Saratoga said it was a win-win situation, and finally promised to buy a book for him and provide plots and materials. He had no choice but to do so. At this time, Bazai said, "Look at Saratoga, she dresses herself up beautifully every day. It's so cold in the cold weather and she wears so little. Anyway, she can't show off her figure. She wears a scarf around her neck. Wearing jewelry on your head will make you look more beautiful. Look at Lexington, he is helping the Admiral adjust his collar. Something great must have happened to them. It's not about arguing with Lexington. The Admiral belongs to everyone, not hers alone. She likes the Admiral, and you're not bad at all, sister. Everyone likes the same thing, and the Admiral must know it. Since they like the same thing, yes, then you must be not pretty enough. Don't glare at me. You have been on the flagship many times before, and the Admiral also likes you very much. Why does the Admiral like to be with Lexington now? It must be because Lexington dresses himself up like a goblin every day. You are manly woman. What do you mean by always wearing clothes like this? It's so ugly. You are a woman. I don't know what quirks people think you have. You dress up like an old-fashioned person every day. When you go to the battlefield, you dress appropriately for convenience. Convenient clothes, military uniforms, etc. are all fine, but on a daily basis, I always wear this or that. Look at the Admiral who used to wear a white Admiral uniform when he had to go to class, but he just wears it casually on weekends. Change your clothes and try to wear other clothes. Do you want to show up with a different image next to the Admiral? Okay. He will definitely like it. Bismarck was silent for a moment and said, "I don't have any other clothes either. Like an open chest sweater." When Bazai said this, Bismarck thought of the photo, and she glared at Bazai. Bazai shrank his head, and then said again, "Even if you don't wear an open-chested sweater, then the turtleneck sweater you wore when taking a shower will be fine. If you go out, wear a big windbreaker or something. Or wear that shirt, a white shirt. Wearing a shirt in winter will make you look like a fool." It's too thin. Bismarck would not completely lose his mind and do such a thing. Then it's a turtleneck. I've decided on this one. Saying this, Bazai got under the quilt and giggled. Then, thinking of what she had said to Saratoga, she got out of the quilt, already serious. Bazai said, "By the way, sister, do you know that custom?" "What custom?" "The Admiral is not going to find Exeter, so he probably won't take you with him." "Well, it's the custom of saying goodbye to his hometown." Bazai said this and began to explain. "In fact, as a ship girl, there is no hometown. I've never been here. Our garrison is in the west. It's very far from here. If you sail by yourself, it will take many days. It's good to have someone to accompany you, but it will be terrible if you are alone. If the voyage takes too long, I like making ships. The master's garrison is here, I didn't expect." On the sea, the outline of the town can already be seen in the field of vision. Sailing on the sea, the Repulse and Exeter were talking. At this time Exeter said, "The Admiral and I met on the island. His character is much better than before, but when talking about certain things, you can still see his bad character. You know, in this line of work, I can infer from just a few words." He countered, "Even if he has a bad character, he is still my master and our Admiral. It's not that he's bad, like being domineering, bullying men and women, etc. It's that he likes to watch fun. When two people are fighting, he likes to watch from the side, rather than trying to stop the fight. It's just a bit of speculation, anyway, maybe right or not. The outline of the town became clearer and clearer in the field of vision, and soon they landed on the beach beside the pier. Everyone walked to the street together, and a maid dressed in counterattack asked passers-by, "Hello, hello, may I ask, where is the town hall here?" The beautiful woman in a maid outfit made the passers-by blush with heartbeats. At this time, the passers-by were flattered and said, "The governor's house here can be passed through the path next to the middle school. Otherwise, you can also go there from the seaside, from the road next to the pier. You can go there, the road is now repaired and can even be open to traffic." "Thanks." The passerby blushed and hesitated for a long time. "What's the relationship between you two?" "We are his ship girls." After saying this, she bowed and left. She couldn't wait. Not long after, they followed the path and found a large-looking but abandoned townhouse.